In my years of playing games, I've heard incredible things about the Batman Arkham series, that the gritty story truly represents what Batman should be through a video game. Some even going as far as saying they're impressive on every level, or that they're the greatest comic book video game of all time. As someone that's never played these games, I thought I'd give them a try back-to-back, marathon style, and it took 6 days. Oh, I also did it dressed as Batman sometimes, but here's my experience.
The Bat Marathon is about to begin. Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum is one of those games that I wanted as a kid, especially being a pretty big Batman fan growing up, but somehow in the 16 years since its release, I have never played it. So it's safe to say, going into my first non-LEGO experience of Batman, I was pretty excited. Loading into Arkham Asylum, you're immediately thrown into this immersive world where Mark Hamill mocks you the entire time. That's right, this guy right here, the Force user, the good guy supreme, the blue and green lightsaber wielding guy, the fatherless phenom, is the goddamn Joker. And little Marky Moo had a plan. Broke out of his containment because Batman's too pussy to just end his life, and now it's time for us to wreak havoc throughout the asylum in an attempt to find our pal Mark and lock him up again. You're thrown into combat pretty much straight away after the cutscene plays out, just into a fight with some like standard thugs, but the combat felt a little too close to a game that I 100%, and it was bringing back some bad memories. I'm never, ever opening this absolute bullshit game ever again. Before you comment that the Kick-Ass 2 combat was probably inspired by Batman, it definitely was. The game was released after Arkham City, which makes me wonder why the game is so goddamn awful. Anyway, back to Batman making his way through the asylum. I was actually really surprised at how many villains show up in this series. Our first encounter is with Victor Zsasz, holding someone hostage. This is by far the easiest fight in the game because all you had to do was get to the gargoyle behind him and glide kick him into oblivion. I don't know why Zsasz is even in the game because, my god, he was so insignificant. That's literally all we see of him for Asylum, by the way. We then get a PSA from Harley Quinn telling us that she's kidnapped the Warden and that Joker's goons have taken over the entire asylum, essentially pulling us into the actual plotline. That being, beat up Luke Skywalker and gain control of the asylum again. Making our way out of the room, I'm going to criticize the game here. I encountered my first Riddler trophy. I picked up maybe 30 on this playthrough from just bumping into them, but holy shit, some of the puzzles seem so tedious and just not worth it if you want to have fun with the game. So for the most part, I ignored them if they took me like way too far off track. After saving a couple of guards and saving one of Joker's thugs, we beat our way through to our first encounter with one of these absolute creatures. It genuinely looks like it just crawled out of the Resident Evil franchise, got lost, and somehow ended up in the Batman games. I was really surprised by this fight. I thought it would take me several attempts while getting used to the combat, but by some sort of miracle, I first tried it. This is now the part of the game where the Joker shows you that he's kidnapped Gordon and sent him to Harley. And essentially, if you're caught trying to follow him, she'll kill him, typical kind of plot. Being Batman, the obvious thing to do is put other people's lives at risk to track down good old Jimmy Gordon. The detective mode in this game is kinda cool. I didn't really know what to expect when I first used it, but having kind of an X-ray vision-esque thing, on top of being able to follow faint traces of alcohol from the bourbon that Jim had on him, it's kinda cool. So we track him to an elevator where Harley sets a trap, yada yada. You guys probably know the plot better than me, but we beat off more guys, pause, and then go into our first Predator section. Fitting name because you really do feel like the Predator when you use the stealth mechanics. It definitely helps that the enemies feel like they're wearing horse blinders, so they have zero peripheral vision. Silent takedowns though, definite 10 out of 10. One little side note with the stealth though, not having access to inverted takedowns without the skill tree does make the stealth a lot harder. The first big stealth area proved to be incredibly difficult without it, and took me more tries than I would like to admit. But after we did eventually clear it out, we're told that the Joker's army are now covering the entire island, and we finally made it outside to see how beautiful this game actually is for something made in 2009. Seriously, I'm so impressed with how this game held up visually. We end up finding our way to the Batmobile that's being smashed in by a bunch of goons, to which the standard response: here we get a new gadget, the explosive gel. Throughout the playthrough, I didn't find this too useful, but there are key moments in the game that need it, and immediately after receiving it, there's one of those damn Riddler trophies that you can get with it. We found Jim's pipe, and using detective mode, follow traces of the tobacco somehow, leading us to a stealth section where we save part of the science team.
No! I'm with the science team!
Who sends us on another mission to save the rest of them. These sections weren't too bad. They were kind of fun stealth sections with some small puzzles, but it kind of felt like it didn't fit truly into the story very well and was just mandatory side quests to gather nerds and save Aaron Cash. After going through all the trouble for the doctors, you find your way through some vents to see our pal Jim unable to fix anything because he's dead on the floor. But this is where I started to not trust things, because Batman started tripping absolute balls. Like, the dude had taken a fuck ton of shrooms before coming here. Like, seeing his dead parents and shit. Obviously, this is the work of none other than Scarecrow, who puts us in limbo with these weird platform puzzles. And I'm not gonna lie, the Scarecrow puzzles in this game were actually really fun. They felt like a nice break from the non-stop chaos that is the brawling in this game, doing 40v1s as a dude dressed in a cape. The platforming feels nice. It uses a good amount of the tech that you have, and on top of that, Scarecrow just looks really cool in this game, and the design of the platforming is also just really sick. The next big plot encounter, after getting through Scarecrow's cool little platforming paradise of fear, is beating the brakes off Harley Quinn and saving Jim from her clutches, which my chat would happily have just stayed in. We're then thrown into a fight with a big burly Bane. This is the first boss fight of the game, and honestly it sets the stage for how most of the boss fights are in this. Long, not much variation, but even with that, still quite fun. It took a couple of attempts to beat this fight, but after gradually breaking him down and hitting him with our car, we were through, into the Batcave and collecting the Batclaw. The most overpowered item in all 3 games, by the way. I absolutely love this thing. For the rest of Arkham Asylum and the other 2 games, I'm going to try and cover just key points, otherwise this video will be 2 days long. The next big story sequence actually kind of blew me away. Walking down Crime Alley and becoming Little Bruce, seeing your parents on the floor. It was a really immersive feeling as the dialogue, lightning, and thunder combined to bring this gut-wrenching scene of the death of his parents. And then the second you walk through the door, you're back into a new Scarecrow puzzle platform area. A new mechanic in this one though, Scarecrow turned into a necromancer, which was kinda sick. I have no idea why. Easy little one-shot skeletons though. Fun little fights. We then moved through and bumped into the scientist that was making the Titan formula from Bane's toxin. She fucking died. Then Harley comes in with Sharp, tells him he's a pussy, and then sets a goons on me. On the hunt for Harley, we bump into Poison Ivy, who Harley lets out like a dickhead just to cause even more chaos. This leads to the first hacking section of the game, which made me feel like a 5-year-old swinging the joysticks around until I got it right, not really knowing what was going on. Don't like the hacking mechanic much in this game, but thankfully it does get better. Getting through some more puzzles, fights, and Left 4 Dead jockeys, we end up fighting on an electric platform to try and get Harley, to which we succeed and throw her at a wall with more force than I've ever seen Batman do anything. And just kind of lock her away and forget about her. More puzzles, stealth, and fun later. It's time for a double Titan boss fight. Honestly, didn't struggle too much with this. It's just about figuring out that you can hit them once they're dazed, and they kind of become a non-issue. It's the same as the first Titan fight, the Bane fight, and every other Titan fight to come, but it's fun. It's just kind of samey. We go and talk to Ivy, disagree with her. She says she might help if I go find some plant in Killer Croc's lair, so that's where we head. Forgot to say, Ivy got Titan. It's made the map a bastard to get around now, and her plants are everywhere. Traversal's definitely made less fun by this, but it does add a lot of variety to the map. Dodging little light orbs wasn't fun though. Getting through even more stealth sections, I was hit with another Scarecrow fear gas section. This time, we were playing the intro, but with role reversal before it switches back to Batman's perspective as the Joker shoots us in the face, and we get a mission fail screen. Not gonna lie, this confused the shit out of me until the cutscene of us climbing out of our grave and platforming our way out of another Scarecrow puzzle. We made it to Killer Croc's lair after escaping the fear-induced hellhole, and this fight was one of the most interesting in the game, using a sound wave monitor to make sure you don't make too much noise. And if you do, well... Right. You could have told me that sooner! After collecting all the spores you need and making Croc dive back into the water a million times, it gives you a final chase sequence where you just blow up the floor and make him fall back into the sewers. Kind of anticlimactic, but overall it's a really fun, like, kind of boss fight. The next part of the game is this elevator fight. Basically just a Titan and a bunch of dudes trying to fist you, which they succeeded in doing. In round 2 I actually beat them all off. Finish them all off. Won the fight, and it led us to the Poison Ivy fight. And I'm not gonna lie, this was the worst fight of the game. I get that Ivy's supposed to be this whole like psycho baddie that my chat thirsts over, and they kind of hyped this fight up to be difficult, but it really wasn't. It was just move out of the way, throw batarangs, and then blow up the middle. This fight kind of knocked a whole point off of what I would rate this game. I disliked it that much. The game throws you into a double Titan fight yet again. The game starts to feel a little bit repetitive here, but luckily it leads straight into the final fight of the game, where the Joker injects himself with Titan like a little fiend for the dragon and becomes this horrific, almost absolute universe looking creature. This fight, again, felt a little lackluster, after having so many fights feel similar to it. But the final Joker fight basically felt like just fighting waves of enemies and wandering around a little instead of actually fighting the Joker like the other Titans. I mean, it did include a few backflaws of him, but that was like the most interesting part until the final cutscene, which was explosive to say the least. Okay. Overall, I really enjoyed Arkham Asylum, but I don't think it held up as well as I would have liked it to. The boss fights were fairly underwhelming, but the story of Joker using Titan and taking over at Arkham Asylum, it was pretty fun to follow, and the overall gameplay and world was great. As much as the combat felt like Kick-Ass 2 Enhanced, and also Mark Hamill as the Joker, I'd say it's a pretty solid 8.5 out of 10.
Arkham City.
Arkham City. Oh my. Let's try and get through this one in a timely fashion because I could talk about this game for a long time. Moving from Asylum to City is like trading in an N64 for a brand new PC. This game is an upgrade on almost every level. You start the game playing as Catwoman for a start, a little bit of Selina to start off your day. My chat went feral for her the entire game. Little side note, if you've watched this far and you're enjoying my first experience with these games, I do a lot of live first playthroughs of games over on Twitch. The link is on screen and in the description. I'd love to see you over there. After beating up some thugs, we get kidnapped. A cutscene plays of Bruce doing some political stuff and transitioning over to playing as Bruce Wayne through a flashbang and an arrest. So to sum up the intro, Dr. Hugo Strange, yes, Dr. Strange, has us handcuffed to a chair and knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. You escape and fuck up some guards on the way, beat the hell out of some inmates of Arkham City as Bruce, which did feel pretty cool, and then have our first encounter with Penguin. I've always seen Penguin as like a non-threat, like he just has goons to fight for him and hasn't got much to him. And that's exactly what this encounter is, just beating the fuck out of his goons and escaping to the rooftops. Which is where you then get the Batsuit, which looks awesome in this game. It does throw you into hacking immediately after getting the suit, which, by the way, is drastically improved. It just shows you where to point the pointer, you just press A. It no longer feels like you're holding a controller for the first time. We beat off some more dudes and made our way into the courthouse to save Catwoman, who was kidnapped by the one and only Two-Face, who after we save Catwoman, delivers one of the greatest lines in any source of media ever.
No gun harm? Shame. This is gonna hurt.
Alright.
2 guns, bitch!
After getting sniped from a million miles away, track it to a church with Harley Quinn in. She leaves, we beat off more dudes, head to the steeple, which is rigged with a remote gun and a fuck ton of explosives, which we dive out of the window to save ourselves. Peak writing once again. Zaz is in this game again, basically has missions that send you on a wild goose chase around the map for phones that ring periodically. I wanted to enjoy the main story, so I didn't really do many of the side missions for my first ever playthrough, but in the future I might go back and do more. We track Harley to a steel mill, I think, in the city, which we break into, save some hostages and have our first encounter with the Joker in this case. Good old Hamill is back, but well, not for long?
Leave us alone, baby!
Oh, he's like dead? Back to Catwoman after being knocked out by Harley and kidnapped by her and the Joker. I will say the combat as Catwoman is fluid as a motherfucker. It feels so fast. Even though the buttons are the exact same, it feels clean and responsive, and like you really are beating these dudes up. The movement, however, sucks. It feels like playing a bad rhythm game. Playing as her leads to meeting Poison Ivy for the first time in City, and that goes about as well as it did in Asylum. Kind of mediocre fight that wasn't all that interesting, which then led to her getting captured by the Vines before switching back to Batman. This is where I think the actual story of City starts to kick in. You're tied to a chair and Mr. Hamill explains that he's dying. His blood is slowly killing him, and guess what? Now his blood is in Batman. So if he doesn't find a cure, guess they both die. Also, Joker doesn't know what Dr. Strange is up to with Protocol 10, which is something that actually kind of surprises me. Next big encounter in this game is in the museum, which, just so you know, took me way too long to get into. The underground section was awful to find the entrance to, but once in, we have to fight a lot of Penguin's goons and make our way to the water room where the police officers are getting frozen to it. This part takes a lot from the croc area in Asylum. If you're too loud, Tiny gets you. You should have what? Oh. Hello, shark. All of this is to save some police officers that Penguin's trapped in different parts of the museum, each with different puzzles or stealth sections. Then you enter the room with Penguin, and he has Freeze's gun, and you physically can't get to him. So you have to track down Freeze, who is locked in a display in the museum and ends up telling us where to get a weapon jammer for his ice stuff. Jamming Penguin's weapons and punching him leads to the first boss fight in the game, which was incredibly unexpected for me. Solomon Grundy, who even though he can't die, he can get zapped to shit. Technically you do fight Penguin too, but that is literally a few punches after avoiding his rocket launcher. Overall a really fun fight, but Penguin did feel unnecessary. Taking Penguin to Freeze, Freeze tells us how we can make a cure with a sample of Ra's al Ghul's blood, to which a ninja breaks out of one of the nearby exhibits and tells you not to talk shit about her dad and fucks off to where you can only assume he'll be. Tracking time. While struggling with the tracking, we ended up bumping into Bane, who, to my surprise, didn't want to fight, and instead wanted to destroy the remaining tanks of Titan that the Joker had hidden through Arkham City. Cool little side quest, to say it's coming from one of the bosses of the previous game. One that we hit with our car, no less. Following back on the trail of the assassin, we finally meet the one and only Tim Drake. He decks the assassin, in which we tell him the sitch. No cure, dead Batman, dead Joker. Oh, and that Strange knows the true identity of Batman. Moving on, we find ourselves getting through some strange puzzles underground, using old Guardian robots to find secret passages into the lair of Ra's al Ghul. Making it in, we meet Damien's mom, Talia, the daughter of Ra's. She makes us do some silly little gliding things as a challenge to be able to actually meet Ra's. So we smashed them out of the park, had a good old scrap with him to try and get the bastard's blood. I will say the Ra's fight was immediately a huge upgrade on any of the boss fights we had in the previous game. His little clay soldiers didn't feel too difficult to a point where they take away from the fight, and timing the Batarang to hit him took more skill than any point in the Poison Ivy fight. Then a casual QTE of spamming Y to counter his sword to win. We were winning so hard that he kidnapped his own daughter to try and win. Still lost though. So going back to Freeze with Ra's blood, he makes the cure and gets mad as hell and destroys one. All because his wife's been kidnapped. Dude is real as hell. He isn't a villain, he just wants the best for his wife. This does lead to one of the best fights in all of the games. It uses every Predator takedown in your arsenal. And after each one, you have to beat him off. I mean, give him a beatdown. And after doing so, it gives him a way of countering the way that you took him down. It turns into like a really cool puzzle rather than a fight, really. But it really makes you think about how to tackle the combat. After beating him, you found out that Harley's robbed one while you were scrapping, so Freeze gives you the freeze grenades and tells you to find his wife and get the cure back. At this point in the game, you should kind of start to forget the primary plot is actually about Strange knowing who Batman is and that he's going to initiate something called Protocol 10. There have been so many times that I've forgotten that it even existed because I was so engrossed in the story of the Joker and Batman being poisoned. It felt way more interesting, and I feel like Strange was really glossed over throughout. It appeared on the map at this point that the cure was dropped off by Alfred. Biggest psych in gaming history, because it's actually the Mad Hatter being an absolute madman and giving you one of the coolest designed suits in the game while making you take part in one of the trippiest fights in the series on a giant pocket watch. Did it matter to the story? No. Was it cool? Hell yes. We puzzled and stealthed our way through to find Harley bound and gagged against a pole. As much as my chat loved this, we ungagged her and she told us where the Joker took the stuff he stole from Freeze. Then we gagged her and ungagged her a few times because it was quite funny. Just put it back on.
Stop that! Don't you dare! If you don't stop doing that, I'm gonna tell Mr. J. What are you?
Found the Joker then and had a big group fight. Had a few brutes in there, some Titans too, as a callback. Actually really enjoyed riding them in this game. It kind of reminded me of Sonic Unleashed, where you play as the Werehog. That fight was one of the hardest in the game, but after it, Talia comes in and gets herself taken by Joker to save your ass. Okay, back to Catwoman and Ivy having their little dispute. Ivy's missing a plant, just so happens to be in a vault that Catwoman wants. Easy compromise, get the plant for Ivy, if she helps us. Doing a little stealth section with her now gets us into the vault where we fight more fellas because somehow they saw it coming. And then we took Ivy's plant, 2 briefcases full of presumed money while hearing that Batman is getting murked in the background. My chat actually told me that I should do a certain thing because of an alternate ending and persuaded me by saying it won't actually end the game, it'll bring us back. I'm just going to let this play out. There's no way, right?
Screw him.
And that's the end of the game? What? Oh, that's insane. That is so funny. Oh my god. Oh my, it does the rewind as well. It physically does not let you. Okay. After the rewind, we actually went back and saved Batman, then switched back to playing as him. All we have to do now is grapple onto some helicopters and download the Master Control program. After this, we make our way to the top of the tower using a mix of stealth, hacking, grappling, just to be presented with what I found to be the easiest stealth section in the game. Taking out all of the guards, it led us to confronting Dr. Strange, who it turns out was working with Ra's al Ghul to try and blow up Arkham City and make sure all the villains were dead, and he could essentially take over Gotham. That's what Protocol 10 was, by the way. The fact that they put two main storylines in this did confuse me a lot, and I lost track of the Strange one way too much because the Joker story was just more interesting. But Ra's stabs and kills him, so we spear him out of a window after a self-destruct sequence goes off, and mid-air the guy stabs himself seppuku style and lands on a spiked fence. Huge rip. Joker then appears on a big screen telling us that he's going to kill Talia. Talia tells us not to listen, yada yada. We go find her as Batman would always do. Finding where they are, Talia smokes Joker in front of us. Batman is not happy about it, and lo and behold, fake Joker gag. Talia gets shot by none other than Mark Hamill. Turns out the fake Joker, also not dead, Clayface the entire time. It's turned into a boss fight that I didn't imagine could be very good, but he's just a lump of mud essentially. So what could a boss fight against him realistically look like? Well, it was actually pretty good. One of my favorites in the series. It took a lot of freeze grenades to make his mud harden and then just breaking him off piece by piece. Even his attacks were pretty unique and I really enjoyed learning the patterns. Turns out after beating him pretty easily, there was a Phase 2, and Phase 2 was significantly harder than Phase 1. I know that's how boss fights are supposed to go usually, but after just Phase 1 I was down to like half health. If anything, maybe less. So I ended up eating dirt for my first attempt. I really liked how Clayface made his little clay fellas come to attack you in Phase 2. Made it a lot harder. Attacking Clayface himself actually seemed like quite a challenge. It also reminded me of the Martin Lee fight that I've funnily enough only recently done in the Spider-Man game. After finally beating him and blowing up the Lazarus pit that he was in front of, we finally secure the cure. Drinking it and making sure we're okay, and the Joker then stabs us in the shoulder, causing us to drop it, and holy shit, spoiler alert, the Joker actually dies. Honestly, an emotional scene in this game, watching Batman walk out of the theater holding him. I really didn't expect this ending. After Batman saying that he would have saved him as well, I definitely didn't see it coming. The Catwoman part after the story ends was pretty mediocre. We just pulled up to the museum where Two-Face was and bullied him so hard. Next up, DLC with Robin. So basically for the DLC, you're thrown in as Robin, who's going through where the Joker's hideout was, as it's now been taken over by Harley. The Robin combat in this game is my favorite. The bow staff feels so cool, and having like the shield and stuff, it's just kind of sick, okay? After getting through a big group of thugs, we picked up Batman's utility belt, taking us to a flashback from a few days earlier playing as Batman that explains why Robin's sneaking through Harley's base. Short version, Batman's trying to save the cops that Harley has kidnapped, which leads him to being ambushed and kidnapped himself, in which Robin is now sent to find him. Find a monument to the Joker that Harley's built, holding a big ball that Batman is trapped in. So we hunt down Harley, get the key from her, and upon finding her, it's a similar situation to the Catwoman Two-Face fight at the end of the game. We just bullied the fuck out of her and hung her upside down. Going back to the Joker monument though, there's loads of thugs and even a Titan guarding it. So we fought through them as usual and let Batman out of his cage, in which we hear over the speakers Harley talking about some bombs she planted over the facility. Shutting them all down wasn't too hard, lots of hacking and fighting for a 5-minute timer. We're then thrown into a fight against some clankers, tear them to pieces. She starts a timer for a bomb, so we just beat her ass again. But the bomb goes off anyway. Luckily the plot armor is so strong that it resists explosives. And we get Harley out of the building, and the DLC ends with Robin saving our ass. Honestly, the DLC felt like a fun side quest, and I'm sad that we didn't get to play as Robin for more of the game, but I had a lot of fun with it. My only critique for City is that the double story had me thrown off a lot of the time, confused as to whether we were doing something for the Joker plot, or being reminded that technically the main plotline is to do with Hugo Strange. Besides the setup of the game, I feel like Hugo didn't play enough of a role, and I know that Protocol 10 is like the whole premise of why City City exists in the first place, but it felt so secondary. Overall, the game felt like a huge upgrade on Asylum, both mechanically and visually, the story also being such a big step in the right direction, and the game got me really excited to finish off the trilogy with Knight. Definitely worth the high ratings, and it get a 9.3 from me.
Arkham Knight.
Okay, Arkham Knight is honestly cinema. It opens up with a cutscene of Jim Gordon cremating the Joker himself. A true send-off and a goodbye to Mark Hamill. Rest in peace, I guess. The most I've actually seen of these games is the next intro. A cop walking into a diner, walking up to a dude smoking and getting hit by a drug that makes him trip balls and kill everyone in there. Turns out, Scarecrow was on that, and he was working on a fear toxin that he's going to use on the entirety of Gotham, causing everyone to be evacuated and just Batman, the cops, and the criminals left in the city. I spent almost the same amount of time playing Arkham Knight as I did both Asylum and City combined. Before I say anything about the game's story, can I just mention how visually impressive this game is for something that came out over a decade ago? Genuinely still one of the most visually impressive games I've ever seen. Not much has looked better than this in that amount of time, and that to me is insane. We're almost immediately thrown into an encounter with a redesigned version of Poison Ivy, who fucks up some guys before we walk outside together to see that there are damn tanks at the entrance. Basically, she was supposed to work with Scarecrow on the fear gas to take over Gotham with him, but declined because it wouldn't be good for her plants. She is, however, immune to fear gas, so that's kinda cool. This is where you first use the Batmobile, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually really enjoyed using it in this game. All I've heard since I started playing this game, and after finishing it, is that the Batmobile's overused in this game and it isn't a good mechanic. I disagree. The driving's fun, the tank mode feels great, and it makes car-based combat fun. You literally have a dodge mechanic in a car. What else can you ask for? Taking Ivy back to GCPD, you put her in an isolation tank. This place actually fills up with all the different criminals that you take down throughout the game. It's such a cool mechanic, and it makes you feel like you're actually clearing the streets of villains and thugs. The game also lets you do one of the greatest things I could have imagined. Yes, you can beat the prisoners. It isn't police brutality if it's done by a rich guy in a batsuit. There are so many side stories and quests in this game. I'll let you guys know my thoughts on those as we come across them. The first side story we came across was the firefighters. Basically, a load of firefighters have been kidnapped and you just go rescue them. It isn't the most exciting thing ever, but there are some fun stealth sections for these rescues, but they're not my favorite, but not the worst for sure. After this, we went straight into the mutilated bodies side quest. This was cool. I liked being able to use the thing that x-rays bodies and checks the muscles and the skin for different deformations and stuff. Overall, it felt very detective-esque, the way that Batman should feel, I think. It ends with a really cool thing with Hush pretending to be Bruce and taking our boy Lucius, who he very almost kills before we break in, kick his ass. Felt very underwhelming, because we just outright destroy the guy, but finding the different crimes, linking them to him, it felt pretty cool. Moved on to the Riddler quest, and honestly, in this game, they are so much cooler than just running around and picking up trophies. They're still in this game, but once again, I didn't really touch them. The Riddler quests came in a variety, but the most standout ones to me were the races. They felt like a really unique way of doing time trials, especially being able to control the courses with the EMP on the Batmobile. That felt really cool, and definitely added like a nice challenge aspect to them. It also had some cool puzzles to save Catwoman. They're all kind of linked, and it's pretty fun. If there wasn't over 200 Riddler trophies to pick up in the game, on top of a few quests that Riddler gives you, I'd say this is the best appearance, but 200 plus trophies is crazy. Back to the story for a bit, we meet Oracle in the clock tower, find out where Scarecrow is making the fear toxin, and go to get the armor upgrade. This armor upgrade gives you access to the fear multi-takedown, which may be the most insane thing in the entire series. Like, imagine the stealth takedowns, but it's not stealth at all, and you can take like 5 guys at once. Pause. Genuinely, there are so many moments in this game made so much easier by the fear takedowns. It makes you feel ridiculously strong, and I absolutely love that. Now at Ace Chemicals, we do a huge stealth section with some cool puzzles with the Batmobile to save a scientist that was part of the creation of the fear toxin. After saving them, we encounter the right-hand man to Scarecrow, the man that knows everything Batman does. His moves, his way of doing stealth, the one man that makes Batman even scarier in this game. Arkham Knight. The reason I say he makes Batman scarier is that he trained an entire military to be an exact counter to Batman, yet this game is based in one night and he literally takes out all of them. This man is unstoppable. Arkham Knight flees as we save another scientist, and we're told where Scarecrow is assumed to be. Make our way there. He looks absolutely incredible. His design is by far the best out of literally any villain in any of the games. He asks us if we want Barbara Gordon, aka Oracle, to die. Batman gets confused. Whoopsie. Scarecrow has kidnapped her from the clock tower because Arkham Knight knows about it. Scarecrow locks us in a room, and we have to try and make the blast of fear gas that's going to cover Gotham just not happen. This is where the surprise appearance of the goddamn Joker is. That's right, even though we saw him get cremated at the start, here he is. Crazy story as to how that happens. We then play as Jim Gordon, go into the Batcave to see that Batman has a load of Joker wannabes locked up in cages underground. Turns out, Joker sent his infected blood into hospitals. Those that ended up with it ended up showing Joker personality traits. Turns out, Batman has some of that blood in him too. You remember in City when he gives you his poison blood to try and fuck you up? Yeah, he's still in there like Johnny Silverhand, and he will make appearances the same way. Anyway, we make it out of Ace Chemicals and tell Jim that his daughter's been kidnapped, and make our way to the clock tower, which was surrounded by tanks. Easy work. Stealth section to take out everyone around it. We make it in, get hit by fear toxin hard, and watch Barbara get paralyzed by the Joker. After that wears off, Batman turns on the computer. Jim realizes that she works for Batman and gives Batman a swift right hook that hits like a wet blanket, and says he's going to find Scarecrow on his own, but we can track the car that took her. Before that, we're jump scared to fuck by Man-Bat. Let's dissect that side story because damn. Basically, we have to hunt down Man-Bat and give him a serum to cure him from the horrific disease that he's given himself in an attempt to cure a disease that he already has. In doing this, the doctor that he is turned into a giant bat and killed his wife in the process. Hunting him down wasn't the most fun part because it took a while, but learning the lore of Man-Bat was really cool. Finding his lab and telling him what he did after was a really cool side mission. It wasn't super long, but definitely a welcomed part of the game. Another side mission thing, the mines that are randomly scattered around Gotham that you have to disarm. There are so many of these things, and you just disarm them and take out tanks afterwards. It was fun for the first 5, but after that, it did get kind of tedious. Back to the story again, we're recreating the crime scene with detective mode. Really cool that we can do this, but it does make no sense that we can. Doing that, we figure out after a car crash, Arkham Knight just grabs Barbara and fucks off, but she does leave us a clue to follow. And before following it, we started the Firefly side missions, and these are some of the most forgettable missions I've ever played in any game ever. Mainly because there are like 4 of them and they're all the same. You use the Batmobile to turn on sprinklers, Firefly comes out, you chase him down in the Batmobile and jump out, pull him out the sky, and it ends with you finally taking him to jail. It's nothing special and that's fine, but it felt like a little bit of a waste of time. We bumped into Azrael on the way to do more story quests, and his quest line is sick. His design, for one, is immaculate, and the sword just looks incredible. Being able to play as him too is so cool. These missions were awesome. Essentially, all you do is fight enemies, but you can't get hit. You have to do this a few times to prove to Batman that you're worthy of taking his place in the event of something happening. But in the end, it turns out that he's been brainwashed, and his head's telling him to kill Batman because it's his duty to protect Gotham, not Batman's. I chose not to kill Batman, and Azrael just kind of left, sad that his brain would do that to him. The next big thing we find ourselves doing is going through a tunnel full of tanks. This shit was crazy, sneaking underneath basically an entire army. You feel like Solid Snake, or I guess Batman, but you literally are Batman, so. After sneaking through, we get our shit rocked by the Arkham Knight. He tells his goons to fight us and just leaves us to it. Bro could have put a bullet in us, but just decided not to. It basically just divulges into a giant fight where you then remote control the Batmobile into a tank, blow everything up, and making it out the tunnels and defeating an entire army, we're met with a car chase, where once we fuck up the car, we interrogate the driver by almost driving the Batmobile onto his head. Genuinely one of the sickest forms of interrogation in the entire game. Safe to say he gave us the information that we need. The Penguin hideouts were the next thing that we stumbled into, and honestly I really enjoyed them. You get info from my favorite DC character, the one and only Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing. One of my favorite parts about these missions is spooking the fuck out of the drivers of the vans before you just collide behind them to find the hideout. And when you get to the hideouts, you just fight through a wave of thugs and blow the place up to get rid of the guns they're smuggling. The first one, you actually do encounter Penguin though. He just does nothing as always and gives up information for the main story. But then we get to play as Nightwing, and it is fucking awesome. It's like playing as Robin in City, but even better. I had a lot of fun with these missions, probably my favorite out of all of them. Getting out of the hideout, we ended up getting into a car chase. These were the most boring out of all of the side missions. You just chase down cars and blow up tanks. Like, they're not great. It felt like a waste of time in comparison to the other stuff that we could have been doing. While we were interrogating Penguin, he gave up information about Simon Stack, who's working alongside Scarecrow supposedly, helping him create the fear gas. So we break into his fucking giant blimps. We speak to Simon, who tells us where Scarecrow is. Then we're hit with some fear gas Joker cutscene to distract us from the fact that Simon's getting kidnapped from right in front of us. And we have to fight more guys, find the CCTV to find out who took him. Arkham Knight did. Duh. We managed to snag his fingerprints because clearly he didn't wash his Cheeto dust hands for us to be able to pull them off the random shit he touched. He was taken into a little pod on the other blimp, and as we started speaking to him, he's pumped full of fear gas. So much that he knocks himself out on the bars of his little cage. And this led us to another Scarecrow encounter where he gasses the fuck out of us, telling us that he's going to expose who Batman is to the world. Then we fight off more guys and throw Scarecrow across the room just for him to escape because of the fear gas taking over and Arkham Knight coming in for the rescue. Finally, we get sent off to save Barbara from Scarecrow, finding out whereabouts she is. There's some of the sickest writing, because what do you mean she blows her brains out right in front of us? Actually insane to watch, and the Joker censoring it by walking past at the perfect time was crazy. Now this is the part where I accidentally did start the Mad Hatter DLC, so I'll go over that because it didn't actually take that long. So Mad Hatter has kidnapped a load of police officers, put them in the boot of some cars, trunk for you Americans, and gives you some really shit hints on how to find them. They'll have bombs in them that you have to defuse after you pull a cop out. After doing this a couple of times, you end up having to come back to the Mad Hatter in the GCPD, and he pulls you into a book where you chase down the final cop through a few different book pages, all themed after the previous games. I'm so glad that I did this because the design for the areas was incredible, and overall the callbacks to the previous games made it feel almost more entertaining. Killer DLC in my eyes. Story time again. We go pick up Poison Ivy, who we somehow convinced to help us because she doesn't want the plants to die, I guess. My chat just liked looking at her, and them going feral was pretty distracting. We took her to a tree that she says holds great power, and with that comes great responsibility, and could potentially use its pollen to neutralize the toxins for the fear gas. Thing is, just the one isn't enough, and Ivy isn't sure there are any others left. Psych, of course there are. Obviously we're going to go out to find it. And while tracking down that tree, we ended up stumbling across one of the bank heist missions. And that's part of the Two-Face side quests. These side quests were interesting. All of them bar the final one are the exact same premise. There are goons robbing a bank. You have to take out 8 of them before they take the supposed 100 million. It's all stealth really, because if you're spotted, you're gunned down like an innocent person in an ice raid. So sneaking around and doing fear takedowns from multiple enemies is the easiest way to get through these. For the final one, the only one with a change, good old Harvey Dent appears. And it's essentially the same thing as the others, another villain just like Penguin, who isn't really much without his goons, and once again, we kind of just bullied him. After all the heist prevention, we go pick up the sonar that lets us track down the roots of Ivy's plants. We find it and free it from the concrete. All of this while Robin's running tests on the Fokers. By the way, this is what I'm going to call the fake Jokers. And Alfred is trying to find the cloudburst that's going to release the fear gas. Before you can actually find the cloudburst, we had to take out some drones and some tower things so that the Batwing can patrol the area for heat signatures. On the final tower, I tried to take down on Arkham Knight and asked who he was. He said no and vanished into thin air. On our way to our next objective, we found a little blockade. These are side missions that are just a little fun pull away from the main story. Things that you just take out on your way to the next main story mission. There isn't anything particularly special about them, but they're pretty fun combat encounters. When we make it to the clock tower after getting past the blockade, we found our way in just to get a call from the old man Henry back at the movie studios telling us that it's under attack. Harley then knocks him out, and from there, obviously, she lets out the Fokers. Finally, we get a new gadget and something that wasn't in any of the other games. A voice synthesizer. It's basically a voice changer, but like realistic. This lets us tell goons to do stuff that Harley obviously hasn't said, and we needed to get through doors and stuff like that too. I think we might have actually used this on one of the blimps too, but this is the first part where it's used in a memorable way. Using it to get into the movie theater, it's a lot of fights with goons, and then to find each of the different Fokers for some mini-boss fights. First mini-boss is Christina. This was just a stealth section, followed by just countering her, which I fucked up a little bit.
It's all mine.
Oh.
Home wrecking little birdie brat.
Okay.
I think she clawed half my face off. Be honest. How's it look?
No different.
Like
We're in a
you're
video
too
game.
slow.
As we're making our way to the next photo, we're shown some visions by the Joker in our head of Robin. But this Robin's kidnapped. Wonder if it has anything to do with the story, wink wink. Robin gets crowbarred, and look at that. We have unlocked the character bio for none other than Jason Todd. Next on the list, Muscular Mark Henry, aka Albert. This was just a brawl with a brute, and honestly one of the easiest fights out of the lot of them. He was just a big angry dude that wanted to fuck you up, only to take him down you had to do a combo on him with Robin. And finally, Johnny Charisma. This was kind of confusing because you control Robin, but from the perspective of Batman, like it's a second person mission. And you just defuse the bombs that he's put around the room while the platform spins and he sings as a song, as the Joker. Just making sure that Charisma doesn't see Robin in the process. Then Batman just nuts him one and knocks him clean out. That's all the big boys, so taking Charisma back, you knock the shit out of Harley once again, and not in the way my chat want to. And then secure the theater once again. Turns out Henry was actually infected too. He just blows his own brains out, which was actually unexpected.
I changed my mind. Kill, kill, kill him. Now that's unexpected. You're gonna be spectacular.
There's no way.
Right. You're the last Joker. That other cell's for you.
I need to stop Scarecrow. When I'm done, I'm locking myself away.
What if you fail? You'll be too dangerous. I won't be able to stop you.
Oh, no, you are not going to do this.
Robin finds out amongst all of this that Batman is the 5th infected and decides to lock him up. This leads to a few weird cutscenes before we throw Robin in there, doing him so dirty by cutting off his comms with Alfred too, and just leaving him there so we can fight by ourselves. Well, not entirely by ourselves, because we teamed up with Ivy to take out some tanks and take it to the big tree that we freed. But the cloudburst has been set off, and now we need to destroy it, but the entirety of Gotham is now covered in fear gas. So we hunt down Simon again, get him to tell us how to stop the cloudburst. He says that we can take a Nimbus cell for the Batmobile, which we take and fit, puzzling our way through the underground with the Batmobile and freeing another one of the huge plants for Ivy. We protect the fuck out of this thing, blowing up 40 tanks to make sure she could keep it up, but this leads to finding Jason Knight, Arkham Knight, holed up in his own tank. And this fight was worse than any other fight in any other Arkham game. Having to do stealth in a tank is awful. On top of that, he just sees you no matter what, and that's fucked. We beat him though and managed to punch him a few times, deserved for that damn tank. We did lose connection with Ivy though, so we made it back to her as fast as we could. Pulled her out of the plant and she wasn't looking so good. She used so much energy that she pulled a fucking Spider-Man from the Avengers films and just disintegrated into dust, actually sacrificing herself for the good of Gotham. Another unreal plot twist that this game set up. The story of this is just immaculate. I know I haven't really gone over it properly, but play it for yourself if you want the full experience, because wow. Gotham PD picked up a broadcast which we decided to track down. Turns out it was Jim trying to go full hero and get Scarecrow himself, still hunting him after Barbara got taken. As we're tracking it, we end up in some tunnels with another dumb boss fight. All the fights with Arkham Knight so far have been awful, by the way. We just need to bait a big hole-digging worm machine thing into dead ends a couple of times and then escape out of the way, but sacrificing the Batmobile doing this. Finally, we trace Jim to a place where he's found bound to a chair and surrounded by armed guards and ninjas. Then Arkham Knight drops down, finally shows us who he is. Jason Todd. Definitely not the most predictable thing in the game. It did kind of make sense that it would have been him though. This fight's similar to the Mr. Freeze fight in City. You just stealth around a couple of things and take out Jason, but each time he's guarded by different obstacles, making it gradually harder. That final time you take him out, you give him a whole speech about who he used to be, and the Arkham Knight appears more as Red Hood for the first time and disappears. So we rescue Jim, nice and easy, take him to see Scarecrow at the top of the tower, plot twist, Barbara's alive, and what we saw earlier was just fear gas. Jim gets told to shoot Batman, and does, and Scarecrow drops Barbara anyway. Batman being Batman was not affected by the gunshot and just dove down to save her because, obviously, So we took Oracle to Gotham PD, where she'd be safe, until we rescue her dad from the clutches of Scarecrow, because that man just likes kidnapping people, apparently. Okay, before we finish off the main story, there was one last set of side missions to do, and they were pretty difficult. These were the towers. They essentially have something that you need to destroy with explosive gel, and after that you take on a big fight of a bunch of goons. I quite enjoyed the challenge of these, and kind of wish I did them sooner, because it really improved my combat and also gave an absolute ton of upgrade points. At this point, we're basically at the end of the story. We have one big mission left. So I decided that before we finished, we should go and do all the different DLCs that I had available. Starting off with Killer Croc. The DLC started off pretty cool. We infiltrated a prison submarine that had a prisoner break out of the cell. Obviously that was Croc. But making it through the submarine and talking to a few of the guards, I realized that I couldn't get any further into it because I didn't have one of the gadgets that I needed. Yeah, we were missing the freeze grenade, which for some reason is an optional pickup at the theater, and I had to backtrack to pick it up, to then come all the way back through the submarine to where we were. Making it through, we found out that they were actually running experiments on Croc to try and figure out how he could regenerate like a lizard. Basically the backstory to how Lizard came into existence in Amazing Spider-Man, but instead it's a dude that's already a giant lizard. We teamed up with Nightwing to take down the escapees and save a guard, just to have to dip out and find a guy that bailed when he found out Croc was out so that we could get the security key to access the other areas. The access key gets us into a lab where they did the experiments on Croc and documented it, playing it on the screens all around the lab. This leads basically straight into a fight with a bunch of prisoners and Croc. And it was a pretty fun fight, but he's similar to one of the Fokers, where you just double take down him a few times and win. His design in this game was so much cooler than the others too. He looks crazy in this. But we locked up both Croc and the guy that tortured him. Huge wins. The Shadow of War DLC was not one that I expected. The symbol for it wasn't anything that I could relate to a character, so I didn't know what to think. But there was a lot of tracking. Turned out to be a lot of assassins, making me think that it would be Ra's al Ghul. It was. Basically, he's hooked up to a machine feeding him Lazarus to keep him alive, because he's on his deathbed essentially from being kept alive for a little too long. So we're asked to go find another Lazarus pit so he can rise again as healthy as ever. But when we get there, it's guarded by Nyssa, Talia's sister, and a rebellion against Ra's that don't think he should be reborn again. We make a cure out of the Lazarus that we find and head back to Ra's, where we're given an option. Give him the cure or destroy the Lazarus machine. Genuinely the hardest choice I think I've ever made in any game. I chose to destroy the Lazarus machine. Judge me all you want. That motherfucker has been alive for several hundred years. After the obvious fight with the assassins ensues, and a cutscene where Nyssa comes in and was gonna kill him, but then she says, might have a few hours or days so it doesn't matter, and leaves. R.I.P. Ra's. Decent DLC. Not the best though. Fucked me up that he said he's proud of Batman at the end. Final DLC time, Mr. Freeze. This DLC has emotionally injured me in ways that I cannot be repaired. The bastards need to leave Freeze alone, man. Why do people always kidnap his damn wife? Anyway, Freeze's wife gets kidnapped, duh. We go save her, bring her back to him, but this time she's out of cryogenesis and awake. I don't know how to script how I felt watching this final cutscene for the first time, so I'm just gonna let this play through.
The equipment, it's all gone. I can't save you. Maybe there's another way.
Victor, this isn't you. I won't let you destroy yourself anymore. I wish I could have told you sooner.
I don't want you to die.
Fuck. Then let me live.
Holy shit.
We won't have much time. Days.
Time never has been on our side, Victor.
Jesus. That might be the saddest fucking story of any DLC ever. Don't ask why I was wearing a dress. I was sent a lot of money to put that on. After the absolute emotional wreck of a mission, it was time to finish the game. Making it into the clock tower after taking out so many damn goons, we link it to the GCPD so Barbara can help us. Then it was time to protect the GCPD from the militia. This felt like such a huge final standoff. I did fail it though, and honestly the cutscene that plays, it feels like No Russian from Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, that's fine, bro. I can do tomorrow before 3:30. Oh shit! After taking out an entire army and more, we go back to the theater to see that Robin's being kidnapped. Again, Scarecrow seems to just love kidnapping people. So we track him down to some rundown building where we find Scarecrow talking on a big screen, telling us to lay down our gear and get in the van, and feeling like a fragile child being offered candy. For some reason we did it. Obviously in the back of the van we get pumped full of fear gas because we end up getting out to be revisited with the scene of our parents dead in Crime Alley before having to fight off Joker 250 times, inevitably snapping his neck. Batman should not be a non-lethal protector. It would make his life so much easier. After doing that, we're met with a cutscene of Scarecrow setting up a camera and revealing the identity of Batman on live TV in front of Jim Gordon and Robin. Oh no, Bruce Wayne the billionaire is Batman. We got pumped full of fear toxin and played as the Joker for a little, but in the style of Batman. That felt pretty cool, but it led to like a first-person horror-esque section of facing the Joker's fear. The fear of being forgotten. And Batman overcoming the Joker in his mind from the blood inside of him, and in which overcoming the fear toxin altogether, locking the Joker away in a deep part of Bruce's mind, I guess. I'll let this last cutscene play out with my reaction.
Do you understand, Gotham? You have no savior. No more hope. No more Batman. I've won.
I'm not afraid, Crane.
What?
Impossible. Without fear, life is meaningless.
There he is. There's Red Hood. Good old Jason Todd.
No.
What's wrong? Scared?
Scarecrow's just a smart people, that's why he doesn't do anything. Yeah, there it is, the fear of bats. Good one, Jim.
He's strong. He's going to be okay.
Look after him, Jim. Look after them all. You've been a good friend. The best I could ask for.
DLC time, we did all the DLC.
You were there at the beginning. And now, you get to see how it ends.
I know there's a true ending to this game. I did watch the final cutscene for that, but I think that's something I'd rather you guys look up for yourself. To get it in game, you need to get the 100%, which is insane because of the Riddler trophies, but it's pretty cool. My experience with these games was incredible. I think waiting until now to play them for the first time was better than playing them growing up. Being able to fully appreciate the story and mechanics in a way that 10-year-old me would not have been able to in 2009. Knight was probably my favorite of the trilogy. The story, the mechanics, the side content, all felt so much better than the others, and the Batmobile was a fresh addition. I know a lot of people criticize how much it's used, but playing the trilogy back to back, you kind of start to yearn for it. Overall, I'd probably give it a 9.5, and the trilogy as a whole would probably be up there with 9.2. Playing through new games is something I didn't do much as a kid, and now I'm a 26-year-old man with a family. It's nice to do this, and really appreciate what I'm playing. I had a lot of fun. If you want to see it live, links in description. Thank you for watching.